What's up, gentlemen? How we doing today?
We're here.
We got final week of the regular season. NFC Round Table. Playoff implications on the line. Busy week in the NFL. I mean, it's been busy since we've been gone. We've been gone for almost a month, I think, right?
Yep.
I mean, I haven't seen you ugly guys, and yeah, it's been a month. Don't take offense to that. I'm just stating facts. But you guys have a good holiday, good Christmas, good New Year, good Kwanzaa, good Festivus, whatever you celebrate?
Yeah. Everything was good over here, man. I mean, it looks good for
awesome.
you. It looks like you got a stupid little hat there.
Oh, I've had the hat, but yeah,
Oh.
it's nice, ain't it?
Yeah. Is it raining there? Or?
Yeah, it's actually raining pretty bad. But I got all this hair. I didn't want to wake up have a bad hair day, so you just throw the bucket hat on. You're good to go. I don't know if Andy's bros like that or if he's just like trying to be funny, but Andy, you good, man?
He might be froze again.
Right on. Well, here, let's Mike, I got a question for you. It's not NFC related, but it's NFL related. You got a certain coach. He's going for the all-time win record, really. I mean, there's only one coach with more wins than him. He's got the most Super Bowl victories as a head coach. He's got some as an assistant coach. Going into possibly his final home game in New England. Do you think, in your opinion, that the NFL should change the name of one of the trophies? You got the Coach of the Year trophy. You got the Hunt trophy for the AFC. You got the Lombardi trophy. I mean, do you think, out of respect to what the man, do you think they should take the name of one of the trophies? And if so, which one?
I think they will eventually. I don't see it happen anytime soon, but I mean, they're not going to get rid of the Lombardi trophy. That's going to, I think, always stay the same. I don't know. Like, maybe the head coach of the year award goes, they change it to the Belichick award, but they're not going to do it anytime soon. Like, I don't see them within, let's just say, the next 5 years changing or naming the trophy. Like,
well, let's say this.
I see it happening, but just not anytime soon.
Do you think he deserves that? Do you think he deserves that distinction?
I do.
No,
you can't. You can't go. You can't go do what he did and not say no, because he's if you go through history right now, he's the top tier coach. But they've played a lot more games, I think, than most people, and he's got more Super Bowls than most people, than most teams have in their whole history.
So here's my thought on that. I understand what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I certainly appreciate that. However, no, for two reasons. Number one, Tom Brady. So if anything, you see what's happening without Tom Brady. They went from suck to suck here. They're almost like Tampa Bay. Number two, if you're going to give any sort of award out, it should probably be for like the top rated or even lowest rated coaching, or I'm sorry, ref group of the year. So if you happen to be like, the top rated, officiating crew, after you're done with the Super Bowl and stuff like that, then you look in there and like, okay, you guys are the top rated. You get the Bill Belichick award because you guys have helped them out so many times.
You've got them into the Super Bowl.
Exactly. And so that's a possibility, because you can't do a coach because they're like historic, iconic kind of things, like Lombardi, Hallis. You can't eliminate those names simply because those are like some of the founding members of the NFL. So
I'm not saying eliminate Lombardi. I'm not saying eliminate Hunt. I'm not saying eliminate Hallis. But what is the name of the Coach of the Year award?
The Coach of the Year award? Duh.
Yeah, there isn't one.
That's my point. No one knows what it is, even if it has one.
Well, here, Andy, to your point, let's take away all his Super Bowl rings away from the Patriots. He still has more Super Bowl rings than the Chicago Bears and a lot of other teams, just being an assistant. So just take that away. I get what you're saying with the stuff he's done, but you can't deny his stuff without. I mean, even without Brady. But you look at all the other big coaches that have lost players, and they're still.
But even as an assistant, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, you're fine, but I'm just saying, like, if you look at, I'm just gonna take for Dallas, Tom Landry. I mean, his last few years it was terrible, but nobody kind of remembers that. They just remember Tom Landry when they won the Super Bowls. That's when history defines Belichick, people are going to forget about these last 4 seasons without Brady. I mean, it's just, they're going to be like, he's got the most Super Bowl rings, and what he's done as an assistant coach into a head coach is nothing but unbelievable. And I hate saying it, but it's true. I mean,
sure, but how can you attribute his Super Bowl victories as an assistant when it's actually directly influenced by the actual coach itself? Take for example Tom Landry. Would you actually consider like Mike Ditka, who was an assistant under Landry for several years, to have multiple Super Bowl rings?
Coach, a tight end coach.
Yeah. Belichick was the defensive coordinator.
Belichick was the defensive coordinator of arguably the greatest defense of that generation.
Yeah, so
I mean,
he had the. I mean, again, Belichick I think has been really lucky with players that he has had with him, because if you look, he's had arguably the best defensive lineman or whatever you want to call it, LT, as his lineman, and then you go offensive wise, he's got Tom Brady.
Carson's was no slouch either in New York.
I know, but I mean, if you really look at it, if you're picking a couple people, it's LT and Tom Brady. If you go on offensive defense, like he's gotten lucky with having those, but is it luck, or is it when you hear stuff from LT saying that, with Belichick pushing me and all this other stuff, like there's coaching involved. You could call it luck or whatever, but it is what it is. I think I think they will eventually maybe name it after him, but it ain't going to be within the next 5 years. It'll probably be one of those things where they'll honor him after he dies.
Well, I know it sounds, I hate that. I mean, I'm not a Cubs fan, but Ron Santo getting into the Hall of Fame after he died was stupid.
Yep.
It's just like, I understand Junior Seau, that was something that, terrible circumstance, wasn't put in the Hall of Fame after he passed. But Ron Santo was on the ballot for like 96 years. It was ridiculous. And then they put that man in the Hall of Fame after he's gone. That's just not right. I think you should honor the people while they're here. And in my opinion, Bill Belichick deserves to have something named after him. I don't know what exactly it is, but
okay. So by that rationale, let's think about it like this. Now, you've had several different little conspiracy, whatever you want to call it, Deflategate and all these other little things and stuff like that. You think that's going to tarnish any sort of name recognition that he might have for any future award naming?
Well,
let's take that one. Let's just take that one you said, Deflategate. Let's just go with that one right now. So it's already came out multiple times that every single quarterback, either the guys with smaller hands always deflate the football. Like, it's constant. Like, they do it all the time, but people don't want to talk about it because the Patriots were so good and everybody hated them. Every quarterback has done it. I mean, the retired quarterbacks come out and be like, yeah, I either put air in the ball, a little bit more air in it, or some guys say, well, I took some air out. Like, for me, it's not a big deal. But
sure, that's fine. However, does any of that make any sort of like news reports, ESPN? I mean, the whole thing? No. I mean, you're looking at having like a major thing that was actually all over the TV and all this other stuff. So now everybody has that negative, that bad taste in their mouth about Belichick and Tom Brady and the deflate ball thing and all this other stuff. So it's like Chicago politics. It may or may not be corrupt. I'm not saying. However, when it's behind the scenes, you can't see it, you don't know about it, and so it's business as usual.
So you're telling me the news does not tell you something and they tell you what you want to hear? No way.
I mean,
It's like being a Dallas Cowboys fan. Oh,
Yeah.
they're the greatest team since sliced bread, but everybody knows they're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs if they even get in the playoffs. Everybody knows that.
wait, that's a good point. Here's another coach I want to talk about. Mike McCarthy. He loses in the playoffs this year. Do they finally move on?
Could be. I hear he might be up for the job in Tampa. They need
We're
a
not
coach.
talking about that. We're going to talk about the games. We're not talking about stupid stuff, Andy. You just keep bringing up stupid stuff.
Unfortunately,
Your favorite
to answer your question, Mike, unfortunately, no.
You don't think so?
I think even if he loses, I think they'll give him another year, which is, you know, you got to realize who's in charge. Nobody knows I don't even think he knows what's happening. I mean, you know, Montgomery Burns over there. I don't know if he's got AI telling him what to do, or like I just
right.
I mean, the biggest thing for me, I mean, when we'll get in the games, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but I don't see McCarthy.
Yeah, I mean, we'll dive into Black Monday later.
Yeah,
for sure. That's something we're going to cover.
Well, you know, they've done it in the past, and I've heard things about, you know, maybe Mike Tomlin being traded.
Oh.
Why can't you have like a Belichick in Dallas and take McCarthy over to New England?
Belichick in Dallas could be lethal, but I mean, I don't want that happening because no one likes Dallas. So we basically got what? 2 games in each conference to talk about today, right? It's all divisional games. They all have pretty much some playoff implications except for one, and that's the Niners Cards. Do you guys want to start up north? What do you guys want to start with this week? I mean, I'm open to suggestions. We don't have to do all the videos or whatnot. We can just jump right into whatever we want to jump into. I was hoping we'd have the odd couple on today to do this Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears, but you know, some people cowered out. I get it.
Yeah, he's afraid. Before we really get started, like I got an update down here in Indy. It is flooding down here really bad, and I hear a lot of complaining. I don't know if it's from the Colts fans crying or if it's actually raining outside.
Oh my God! Come on, man.
So yeah, we got a flood warning down here, so you just gotta be careful.
I got to tell you, I support the call. That was the right call last night. I'd have stacked the box against him all day.
I do too, and I think people who know football know it was the right call. I just, I think the quarterback made a bad throw. So it was just
you're used to having a quarterback making bad throws, bad decisions.
Yep.
Bad everything.
All right. Speaking of bad football, let's get into the Bears this week.
Yep.
Bears, Green Bay, Andy. You have no real hope for you. Your season's over. You're having decisions to be made on Justin Fields. You have decisions to be made on your offensive coordinator. You have decisions to be made on your head coach. You have decisions to be made on your first-round draft pick. I mean, the Bears are like a big Mario question mark. You don't know. You hit it. You don't know what you're going to get, but you're going to get something. Going into today's game, you've got 3 offensive weapons that are questionable. Mooney is doubtful to play because he's still in concussion or still has symptoms of concussion. Herbert's out with the back. Hamet's out with the knee, or is questioned with the knee. Where do you generate offense?
With stuff and things.
I'm glad you did research.
I'll explain. You've seen how over the last several weeks how a couple of things have happened. First off, the Bears have actually played much better in terms of your defense is actually starting to come along and you're actually starting to see what they're trying to do. The offense, for the most part, has actually been it's a sporadic juggernaut, if that makes sense. It's one of those things where they have the opportunity to actually score a lot of points because you have an athletic quarterback. He's now being able to read the field a little bit better than he has over the last, year or two. So you're actually looking specifically for DJ Moore, who's actually I would say, your probably biggest weapon. He's your number 1A. Mooney, of course, he's a loss, but not a major loss because he's been sporadic throughout the year. And you're going into Green Bay, which is first off a rivalry. Secondly, Eberflus, of course, is under fire for the potentially being removed. Now, if by chance, and it's kind of been a joke for years, look, you can be a coach for the Chicago Bears for 20 years if you do two things: beat Green Bay twice. That's pretty much it. You can go 2-16 and you'd still keep your job simply because that rivalry is so heated, especially over the last 10 years with that other guy, and now he's in New York. I don't know. He will not be named. Anyway. So.
Aaron Rodgers?
This freaking guy. So you have the opportunity to go into Green Bay for a couple of things. Rivalry game, potentially to save Eberflus's job, potentially to save Justin Fields, who I think should actually certainly get an extension in Chicago, and to be able to knock them out of the playoffs. Granted, old Packer backer Brian would probably be, oh, you know what, we of course need the victory because then we can get in the playoffs, and completely understandable, but then you see nothing but win for the Bears if they actually go into Green Bay and win, which they have a very good chance of doing because Montez Sweat's had, 5.5, 6.5 sacks over the last 8 games?
Do you remember when you guys picked him up instead of Chase Young and all you Bears fans were miserable, clamoring that you got the wrong guy? And I was like, sit back, just watch. Montez Sweat is the real deal. Montez Sweat is going to change the complexion of that defense.
Absolutely.
And lo and behold, that defense has been lights out as of late. You got someone coming into Green Bay today, though. It's not going to be as cold as it normally is when you play this time of year in Green Bay. You also got quite a few people that are questionable for the Green Bay Packers. You have both their running backs, Wilson and Thielen, are both questionable with neck and shoulder injuries. Their tight end, Musgrave, is questionable with a kidney injury. They have 3 wide receivers that are questionable, Watson, Wicks, and Reed. Watson being the biggest one with a hamstring injury. Hammies are very iffy, especially in cold weather. You got to get that thing warmed up and stretched well to be effective on game day.
Wait, what are you talking
about? Packers are in a win and in situation, but they can also lose and still get in today. They would need Seattle, Vikings, and the Bucs or Saints to lose today, and they could still make it into the playoffs. The NFC North could have two teams in instead of just the one that they actually deserve.
Well, right, exactly. So with the Bears having the opportunity to actually, again, save their head coach, which is quite popular in the locker room, to be able to save their quarterback, which is very, very popular in the locker room, to be able to have the opportunity to knock out the Packers from the playoffs. It's just like I said, it's just a win-win-win if the Bears actually go in and actually put their best foot forward, so to speak. You know, with the idea of having the potential first-round draft pick of a new quarterback. What makes that kind of interesting is I don't necessarily think he would be the answer. Now, if you were to get Marvin Harrison Jr., for example, or maybe another offensive lineman, now you're talking some serious smoke here, because now you have a number 1 and a number 2, DJ Moore, Harrison Jr., an offensive lineman that'll actually be able to actually protect Justin Fields and maybe move the pocket around, things like that. It's just, plus you would actually be able to trade away your first-round draft pick, have several other first-round draft picks.
Let me throw this scenario at you. Bears are going to get the number 1 draft pick with Carolina being as terrible as they are this season. Bucs are probably going to lose him today because I said Carolina Panthers are terrible, but whatever. Let's get into it. Bears have the Panthers' first pick. Say they trade that pick. They don't get Harrison Jr., but they get 2 more first-round draft picks, maybe 8, 9, 7, somewhere in there, and then somewhere down in the 20s. So you can potentially come out with a wide receiver like Keon Coleman. You can come out with a wide receiver like Neighbors out of LSU. Either one of those are going to be a day 1 starter, number 1, number 2, number 1A receiver. Can still get Javon Curse at 10, or Jared Curse at 10. And then in the 20s, you could still get a high-profile offensive lineman. That's a core there. That's something you could build with going forward. If I'm the Bears, I'm not 100% putting all my eggs in the basket of Marvin Harrison Jr.
Sure, no, absolutely. But if you have the opportunity to actually trade away that first-round draft pick yet again, you could, in fact, actually draft Williams, trade him to whomever you need for several different players. Even the Raiders, for example. I don't know if you've seen some of the scenarios, I guess you can see where, the Bears would end up getting, I think it was like 4 or 5 different picks throughout the first and second rounds, and Crosby as a package. And I think that was actually so. I could be
got
wrong.
the capital for it.
Right. Well, I think that might have been for Justin Fields, not necessarily for the first round pick. But yeah, I mean, it's a scenario where the Bears almost can't lose, and with the success of last year's picks, in this scenario, but
Listen, everything sounds great, but we're all forgetting one thing right now. Like, all this stuff sounds great, and I wish they would do that stuff, but it's also the Chicago Bears. They'll find some way to throw it away. I mean, you had fans chanting Justin Fields. They haven't done that in years, and watch this organization just be like, "Nah, we're done with them," and throw them out. Like, that's like, if they can't figure this out, what to do with the opportunities they have right now with what they have is very rare in the NFL. If they can't figure out to do something with that, then that organization needs to be blown up.
Sure. However, you do have a new GM, guy from last year, Ryan Poles, who his. So you have, in the past, you've actually had the GM and even the president. They've been pretty much the same guys. Fine. They're definitely an older school type of generation. If you actually bring in that younger core, look at the coach from Miami, for example. The head coach from Miami, who's never actually played. He started as a ball boy, and now here he is as an NFL head coach. You can see how that different generational thing has actually been, well, beneficial for them for sure. So you bring in a different set of guys who have different vision, and I just think that the Bears, in fact, have a better chance of actually doing a couple of things, getting a number one receiver, maybe even a number one offensive lineman, and having either more picks because you're trading away your number one, or you're taking that number one and actually shopping your quarterback, your number one quarterback, your athletic quarterback, who at least 10 teams would probably be interested in.
Yeah.
Dallas, for example, would have an opportunity to have a good quarterback too.
Let's talk about today. We're done talking about the Bears' potential blown future, but let's talk about the game today. Bears win today if they can control the field position, in my opinion. If they can keep positive field position, meaning they're playing well on special teams, they're controlling the clock on offense, they're staying ahead of the sticks on third down, I think they can win this game. I think they've proven they know how to beat the Packers. They just got to do it away from home. I mean, how do you?
Well, I mean, they've had more success at home, obviously, but if you actually look at the way that they played on the road, it's almost one of those things where you could be up 60 points. You can score 60 points in the first half. Unfortunately, in the second half, you're allowing 61.
Right.
Now that whole paradigm is starting to kind of shift a little bit, especially with Montez Sweat, of course, and Thompson and all these other guys, I have a feeling that they would have a better shot than most times to go into Green Bay and actually win, with all of the injuries, with all of the things that Green Bay is going through. And just like everybody else, if you give Jordan Love some happy feet, he might not necessarily make the smartest decision in throwing, and maybe you get 1 or 2 picks. Because the Bears have, 16 takeaways over the last 8 games?
Yeah.
So it's just simply one of those things where the Bears would have that opportunity. And save your coach's job, save your quarterback's job, potentially knock the Packers out. It's just a win-win-win for Chicago.
Right on.
That means go Pack go. That means Packers win by 10.
Pack wins this game if they make it a foot race. If the Green Bay Packers can come out score fast, I don't think the Bears can keep up with a high efficiency offense where they're scoring quickly and they're not able to eat clock, keep the ball away from the Green Bay Packers. I think the Packers win today.
That's
Minnesota,
possible. But if by chance the Packers keep the ball on the ground, I have a feeling the Bears will probably end up eventually turning the tide and actually being being the overall victor. If by chance you have a Jordan Love who's essentially unmolested within the pocket, he would have that opportunity to be able to pick the defense apart. Then the Packers would actually probably end up pulling it out. But you never know. This might be one of those days where it all kind of clicks and comes together with Justin Fields, who might have 300 yards, 50 yards passing and 3 passing touchdowns. Who knows?
It's a big possibility. Let's go to Minnesota, or let's go to Detroit, where we have Minnesota head in there. Take on the Lions. You've already wrapped things up. Lions need a win today, and the Eagles and Cowboys lost to grab the 2nd seed. Both teams are fairly healthy. You got Naylor, who was a wide receiver from Minnesota, who was put on IR due to concussions. He's out for the rest of the season, which is today. If you're Minnesota, Vikings need a lot to get into the playoffs. Detroit has Brock Wright out with the hip, Jameson Williams out with an ankle, but everyone else is a go. I mean, Detroit's only favored by 3 at home. That doesn't make sense to me, but do you think Detroit just pulls their starters and settle for being the 3?
So you, of course, have to check Vegas and stuff like that. That's how you're going to be able to, because that's the way that the NFL plays, officiating and stuff these days. But anyway, there's a possibility. Now, if you're a starter, you always have that competitive, nature that you want to play. However, you also understand the fact that you're already in on the playoffs. You have at least a 2-game lead on pretty much everybody in your conference, so you're basically in. So, it might be like one of those things, 2 quarters, and you bring in
the worst they get is 3. I mean, they're in. They've won the conference. The worst they can get is the 3 seed. They've got a better record than anyone in the NFC South. I don't think you play your starters if you're Detroit. I mean, I know their head coach is hellfire and brimstone, and he's going to want to take him to the tool shed. But this is a situation where I think you just get healthy. I think if you're Detroit, you don't even care about the outcome of the game. You get healthy.
I think Campbell, he'll do the first half, and then I think he'll sit people out. I think he'll get told to sit. He'll get told by halftime to sit people out.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's why your spread's only 3. I think Vegas has the same feeling you do.
I mean, just because the way Dan Campbell coaches, I think he'll start the starters, and then he'll end up all getting pulled.
Well, good news for Minnesota. They'll have their players with their kneecaps at the end of the game.
Yep.
So, NFC East, Mike. Got some good matchups today. Who do you want to go with first?
We could go for the I guess the Eagles and the Giants. We could go with that game.
Okay. You got one person. All right. You got one person questionable for Philly with Swift with the illness. He's questionable. But Smith, their prolific wide receiver, is out today. Going against the New York Giants, who have basically Saquon Barkley and They've got Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's a rivalry matchup, but I mean, I said it in the beginning of the year. The Eagles would retain the NFC East crown. Unfortunately, they win this, they win the crown. Even if Dallas wins, so I believe.
No, if Philly wins and Dallas wins, Cowboys clinch.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they said on ESPN today.
Okay.
Cowboys or
Philly.
Philly currently has the 5th seed, can clinch the division with a win and a Cowboys loss.
Yeah.
This would push them to the number 2 in the NFC. So the only team they would go on the road against would be San Francisco.
Yeah. The Eagles win against the Giants. I mean, the Giants are all beat up. They've had a terrible year, and after what they did last year, it was just like, what happened? They've had rotating quarterbacks all year. The New York News trying to make something out of nothing with their quarterbacks. The Eagles are going to win. I know it's a rivalry game. I just don't see with the Giants having the injuries they have and the Eagles, but I know they're playing they're playing in New Jersey, so the Eagles are on the road. So it's pretty simple, dude. I don't see the Eagles losing this one. I mean,
Well, if the number 2 seed wasn't on the line, I could see the Giants just winning this game because Philly has nothing to play for. But I think that number 2 seed is going to become very important going into the playoffs. I mean,
yeah,
you don't want to play on the road unless you have to.
yeah, and and like I said, like moving from that, and then you go, to the next game. I mean, I'm not going to cover this, go deep involved in it, but the Cowboys are going to play in Washington. They suck on the road, and they got to win this game. I mean, if you look at the record this year, they're terrible. They're terrible on the road. They haven't been this bad on the road in years. Usually, they did better on the road than they did at home. It's kind of flipped this year. So the thing is like this game for me, for the Cowboys, is going to show what McCarthy and Dak and that team has. I know the Commanders are only 4-12, but you have the number 2 seed on the line for the playoffs. What are you going to show that you need to be that you are capable of being that number 2 seed?
Yeah.
And
do you really want to face the Washington Commanders with Ron Rivera potentially on his way out? I mean, the writing's on the wall in Washington, I believe. This is Rivera's last game. I think he's pulling out all the stops. I think he's going to do everything in his power to win this game today. I don't think you're going to see any of their starters sit. I don't think you're going to see, and I think you're going to see an aggressive defense from, Riverboat Ron. I think you're going to see a lot of gambling going on in that defensive front.
I mean, they got and Washington's got a few injuries with their starters being out. And they've been beat up really bad all year with injuries and everything else, and then trading away people because of the new owners. I think that had a lot to do with this team this year. I don't so much see Ron Rivera being the issue with coaching. I think it was the new owner taking over and be like, well, this is what we're going to do, and whatever. But for me, the Dallas game is to show, do you belong or do you not belong? If you can't wipe the floor with Washington with how beat up they are, it doesn't matter if you're away or home. I know it's still the NFL and things can happen, but if you can't show that you can't beat the crap out of this team to get ready for the playoffs, that's not going to bode well. I mean, because basically for me, they have to get the number 2 seed. They can't go on the road. If they go on the road somewhere, they're going to
somewhere.
Probably lose the first round.
Somewhere.
I know. Well, I know that eventually they're going to have to go on the road somewhere. I'm not saying it because, I just won't. But for the majority of the games, they need to go there. So, but I do. So, I mean, I got Dallas to win this game. But it's going to be a show. This is a show me game to show me what you got before the playoffs start. Can you actually get it all together and earn that number 2 seed? So,
So we had a question while you were going into your little, whatever you want to call it, fairy tale story you were telling us. Johnny Dean asked, what spoiler team has the best chance to win today? Giants, Washington, Panthers, or Vikings?
You know what? It's going to be those 2 NFC East teams. I'm telling you right now. It's the Giants or Washington, I think.
I disagree. I think with Baker Mayfield coming in today with a rib injury, with the Bucs not having any faith in the ginger one, I think Carolina has a good chance at winning today. I know the Bears ain't got a shot at doing anything today. I don't know why Andy's down there laughing.
Because when you say Baker Mayfield, being the end all be all, and Tampa, both of those are complete motor joke. But anyway,
dude, I still don't understand why the Bucs do not believe in him. I mean, he threw that dart in that when they played the Colts. I mean, he threw that dart right in that Dr. Pepper thing, dude, and won some dude $25,000. Oh, wait, they weren't doing that yet. That was just sitting up there when he threw it.
You're so stupid.
Or it's like when there's like
you couldn't even see that from how high you were.
It was almost like when there was only 11 seconds left and you were down by like 2. you run the ball and then you kind of sort of him and haw at the line of scrimmage and run out of time to lose the game.
I mean, his second pass it came up to the 600 level. I mean, he threw that thing way out of the field.
Anyway,
He's got an arm on him. I can tell you that.
So NFC West games aren't really relevant today. If Seattle wins, they have a shot at making it. Other than that, there's no real relevance in the NFC West today.
I have
It's
one
not
question.
relevant ever.
Hey,
Do we have to go into that?
Hey, NFC West games. I got one question about that. All we heard all the time from a certain somebody is that Sean McVay can't be the 49ers. And the 49ers are sitting everybody. Is it McVay's finally the opportunity to beat the 49ers?
Honestly, I don't know.
I mean,
the Rams injury report is ridiculous.
I
They
know.
have like 9 guys listed as doubtful, but they don't list what their injury is.
Yeah.
It just says doubtful, 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 but nothing on the injury.
I mean,
The Niners aren't playing 3. They're probably going to pull their starters after the first drive of the game. So
What they were actually doing was giving Dallas's prediction for the playoffs. Doubtful.
we already made it, so I mean, you can say doubtful all you want. You can say moving on to the playoffs.
I'm talking about winning that first game. You know what?
Right.
It's like when you're like, for example, the University of Alabama. You go in and play like a small little Division III school. It's
and you lose.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like one of those things. Like, oh, we have Dak is the man and all this other stuff. Next thing you know, they end up losing by 2 touchdowns.
Well, I really want the Rams to beat the Niners just so we could all forget, and then we have that little jab and everything.
You know what I want to have happen? I know this is terrible, but I would love to see a repeat from last year where they're pulling quarterbacks out of the crowd to go to the playoffs just because it's the Niners and Jerry's sitting here watching.
Yeah.
If you're a conspiracy theorist and you notice the little the NFL, it's going to be San Francisco, and it depends. San Francisco is actually just like a show team. They're kind of like Dallas in the fact that they do this, but then when it kind of really matters, they all they fold because they're horrible.
Yeah. Somebody already mentioned that in our group chat like a couple months ago. I don't know who it was, but that seems like a pretty smart guy.
So the NFC South, right?
Doesn't matter.
Getting into some good football here. Neither team in the NFC South. None of us really want to claim the crown, I guess. Bucks had a chance last week and crapped the bed. I mean, that was awful performance. But anyway, here we go. New week, new games, new mindset. Bucks winning, they're in. But we're going to go to the Falcons Saints first. Both teams need a victory. Falcons don't have a quarterback. I mean, they have one. Then they don't have one. We're going to go with Heineke. But, you know what? Let's give Ritter a shot. Let's go to Heineke's got a concussion. Decisions made. Ritter's getting the start. You got the Saints with Kamara, questionable. Miller, questionable. Perry, questionable. Johnson, questionable. Both teams need a win to get into the playoffs. But they do need the Bucks to lose. Falcons are eliminated with a loss or a Bucks win. The Saints can still get in with the Bucks win. The Saints can still get in with the loss if the Bucks win and both the Packers and Seahawks lose. That would make them the 8th. But does anybody want the NFC South? The Saints seems like they have their offense clicking finally, seems as if they're going in the right direction. The Falcons are just the Falcons. I mean, they can't seem to get out of their own way.
No, nobody wants to watch the weakest division in football, the NFC South. To answer your question, no, nobody wants to see it. I mean, you asked the question, I got to answer it for you. No, nobody wants to see it.
I said this last year. Jerry's like an NFC South team hosting a playoff game is wrong, but unfortunately, that's the way the rules are written. So, I mean, at 9-8, the Bucks are going to host a playoff game if they win. I mean, what can you do about it? But if the Falcons or Saints again, one of them win the NFC South, it'll be another year that a losing record has won the NFC South.
Yep.
Things got to change there. Somehow we got to change the rules where you have to be one of the best teams in the league to get into the playoffs. Maybe we should go to that's what we should do. We should get a committee of 13 people.
No.
Right? And have them vote on who the best team is and tell everyone that the regular season doesn't even matter.
Yep. We could do that, and then you could watch a team get in and then get beat that so probably had to get that was supposed to get it.
They didn't get beat. That was the worst loss, I think, in the history of like ever.
They had 23 starters out.
Come on, what other excuse is there?
That's it. That's
You had a cross breeze, sun got in your eyes, there was an alligator on the green. I mean, whatever else there is, just bring it on in because it didn't.
You've got to know Seminoles aren't afraid of gators. Come on.
Okay.
And here's the other thing too. The Georgia, when they beat the snot out of Florida State, I think they had I don't even think they had any starters. Those were actually some of the guys from the local high school.
You're crazy. Anyway.
All right. Yeah, I mean, the rule needs to change, and we've all talked about this in our group chat and on here that something needs to change because these divisional games, yeah, they're big, but with the way things are going in the direction with the NFL is going, they have to do something. Because this is just absolutely of having a losing record team host the playoff game. Like, I get the divisions, I get all that, but it's the top 4 teams that are the best, that have the best record. They get number one gets home field advantage all the way through.
I think it's how it should be. Winning loss record should matter. Top 4 get it. If you want to put the divisions in, okay, great. You're the 8th team. If you have the worst record, you're on the road in the playoffs.
Yep.
Even if you win the division. But
this is, of course, coming from someone who always gets, the shotgun in the end. If for example, Dallas has to go to Tampa Bay and play them in Tampa Bay because of the fact, and that's fine. However, if the rules reverse, I guarantee you'd be like, oh well, it should be, they should be coming here, even though we're 7-9 or whatever the case might be, we're still won the division. And if you just have it, it's just like college these days. Why don't you see if Dallas can actually go to the NFC South, which makes sense because they're in the South. But then you would have such an easier path because it's almost like, again, it's like Alabama playing like a high school team. Because the rest of the NFC South is just so incredibly bad. The Bucks are just whew.
Yeah. Let's talk about the recent Bucks playoff game or Bears playoff games. You start. All right then. Okay.
Well, the Bears.
So Bucks versus the Panthers. Mayfield has a rib injury, but is expected to play. Wide receiver Raheem Jarrett has a quad, is questionable. Palmer is questionable with hip injury, and their utility tight end Ko Kieft is questionable. The Panthers come into today's game fairly healthy. Bucks are in a win-and-in situation. It's a T-shirt and hat day, same thing as last week. But Bucks win this game if they can keep the ball from the opposition's hands. If they can reduce the turnovers, win the turnover battle, it's the same. Winning a football game is always the same recipe, right? You control the clock, you win the turnover battle, you score more points.
Can you put that back up? I didn't see that fully.
But I mean, am I wrong? That's the recipe. You limit turnovers, you control the clock, you control the field, you score more points.
You forgot a few. Hit them where they ain't. That kind of stuff. When you're that kind of thing.
We're gonna fight for everything.
Exactly. Fight. Win.
But I'm serious. I mean, it's not a hard recipe. You just gotta do the little things, and that's what the Bucks aren't doing right now. Is the little things. They were on a 4-game winning streak, and then believed their own hype and went into Raymond James Stadium and shit the bed. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They got to come out and play fast football. They've got to score early in this game. You put Carolina behind 2 touchdowns, you put them behind 10 points. I think you got this game in hand.
The Bucks win.
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
It's like your
playing stuff on Bucks win.
well, it's like your NFC West team that's like beating everybody, making the playoffs. You get an easy route there, and then you make it to this. Yeah, they didn't do very well there either.
Well, we're not doing pick six today. We're going a little different route.
I keep forgetting about that.
Yeah, we're gonna go a different road. What do we want to call it, Mike?
Let's go with this.
Black Monday.
Oh, Black Monday. Nope.
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 No.
Yeah,
No.
we'll talk about that.
No.
What 6 coaches do you guys think are on their way out?
Oh, I thought it was what 6 coaches we wanted out.
That works too.
Oh, my bad. All right, I have to redo my list.
No, go ahead and give us your list.
My list was Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Todd Bowles, and that dude from the Bears. So those were my list. I thought it was want. I didn't know it was who was going to be gone. But then I added 3 more just in case. I mean, I added a couple more, but I mean, realistically, let's look at it. Arthur Smith from the Falcons is gone. I got him on the list. Ron Rivera's gone. I mean, there's already talking that today, and the big name finally done in New England, Bill Belichick, I think is gone. So
yeah, I don't. My list isn't very much from yours. I mean, I realistically tried to look at it. I ranked them 1 through 6, who I thought was for sure out and who is, possibly out. I got Ron Rivera at 1, Arthur Smith at 2, Bill Belichick at 3, Dennis Allen at 4, Todd Bowles at 5, and Mike McCarthy at 6.
Yep. And the 2, Todd Bowles and Mike McCarthy, I think come down to if Todd Bowles loses this game not to get in the playoffs, I think he'll move on. McCarthy, we got to worry about that owner up there, down there. I mean, I see why you put McCarthy there. I get it. I mean, if they go in the playoffs and choke again and they're done, I mean, something's wrong.
Todd Bowles is currently on track to win the NFC South 3 years in a row. Twice as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Make the playoffs 4 consecutive seasons in Tampa Bay. He's on track to do it twice as the head coach.
Have never had a winning record.
Hasn't had a winning record since he lost to Rex Ryan when the Jets played Buffalo. And Fitzmagic tore him up. I mean, did Rex Ryan ruin Todd Bowles? I mean, yeah, whatever. But Todd might just save his job because he's in the Bill Belichick weakest division in the league right now. Bill Belichick made a career out of being in the weakest division in the league.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean,
and all joking aside, like we're putting big names in there, and joking about Kyle Shanahan. What happens again if they get into the NFC Championship game and lose?
Here, let me spin this scenario at you. What happens if they get an NFC Championship game and lose? Michigan wins the CFP. Jim Harbaugh's like, I'm not sticking around for any fines or suspensions. I'm going to the NFL. Goes back and wants a coach in San Francisco. San Francisco's like, you got us there before. Now what?
There's no way.
Why?
First of all, Mike, don't bring stuff up like that.
Well, I'm just saying.
Everybody's bringing it up. It's not the focus right now. That's not the focus.
Especially
for
since
you.
Washington's going to end up winning.
I mean, it can be Black Monday for me personally, and a lot of people on Monday, but it's not going to be. But it can be. but I don't see it happening. I just don't.
Washington's got that big Penix energy, bro.
Yeah.
And because Michigan is probably one of the more overrated teams, I would imagine they're probably going to end up getting 40 scored on them.
You know, I've talked trash about Michigan for, I don't know, since the day I was born. And probably the best team they've had in a while. I don't see them losing. I wouldn't mind seeing them lose to Washington, but I think if they lose to Washington, Harbaugh stays. I think if they beat Washington, Harbaugh is either coaching the Bears next year or he's somewhere in the league.
No.
Could be.
Could be.
So, well, let me give you the coaches. I think they're probably on the hot seat.
Yeah.
There were several actually. Ron Rivera, Bill Belichick, Arthur Smith, Matt Eberflus. Now, Eberflus is kind of interesting because if they end up beating the Packers, there's a possibility. Getsy will probably end up going bye-bye. Vrabel in Tennessee, New York Jets coach Robert, Arthur Smith, Jonathan Gannon, Frank Reich, of course, with the Panthers. He's going to be out. Dennis Allen, Brian Dable with the Giants, and Mike McCarthy. So here's an interesting stat: Mike McCarthy, Cowboys season record 5 and so his playoffs, he's only been 1-2 in the playoffs. I don't know how accurate that is. That, of course, is from Yahoo.com. But I just thought that he would have had a little bit better record with Green Bay and stuff like that. So
yeah, who's the one team
really on a hot seat?
There was only one team we beat. Who was it, Mike?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I do.
I was pretty drunk that day. So yeah. So seriously though, Vrabel's job, he might not get fired, but if Belichick goes, Vrabel might go.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, Robert Kraft has Mayo up there, and if Vrabel wants to be in New England, I'm sure he can write his own check to New England.
Well, and I think he's handcuffed in Tennessee a little bit with what he wants to do. I just the way he is and what the stuff he wants to do. I just think he's a little bit of handcuffs with the ownership there. So that might be a good move for him.
It's time for him to. If Derrick Henry's done after this year in Tennessee, why does he stay?
Yeah.
That division's getting tougher. The AFC East is still the AFC East.
Yeah.
It's up. Josh Allen hasn't proven anything. The Dolphins are always doing I'm going to get hot in October and fall apart the rest of the season.
Yeah.
You get a good coach, you get a good GM. That's the problem with New England. If Belichick goes, that whole front office is going to be under a whole new change.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get someone in there that knows football up in the front office. You're going to get a general manager, head of player personnel. You're going to get a new head coach. Your defense is going to change because you're going to have a new head coach is going to want to have his finger in everything. So he's going to want a new defensive coordinator, going to want a new offensive coordinator. So, I mean,
gross.
New England's a team to watch. Shut up, Andy.
You're the one saying it.
So, I mean, I know we're getting into all this stuff, but let me ask you, because this is what I kind of wanted to bring up, and I forgot to mention it beforehand. Who do you think the one interim coach that is coaching right now with all the teams, who do you think keeps the job as head coach? I mean, I have mine, but I
can't think of his name, but he's at the Raiders. Can't think of his name offhand. I think it's him.
Antonio Pierce. That's who I had too. But my worry is
it's the Raiders and they're going to mess it up.
Yeah, and they had this last time with the coach that was winning, and they got rid of him and went with somebody that proven time and time again he's not a coach.
So I mean, it's just like, well, in that particular scenario, I see that after Washington beats Michigan, Harbaugh could literally end up with the Raiders.
I think if anyone goes anywhere, if Eberflus gets fired, the most sense, in my opinion, is Jim Harbaugh to the Bears. I mean, it's where he got his career started. He was successful there for 7 years before he was traded. He obviously has some sort of affinity for the area, Big Ten country, Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota. It put him right in his wheelhouse. He's got some comfortability there.
Yeah, but you see, with not knowing everything, that also news came out the other day that there's pretty much a high percentage chance of JJ McCarthy coming back next year. He's already
Well,
said.
maybe he'll have to do something. I think he's thrown like 7 completions all season. So
How incredibly
You don't have-
mediocre that would be.
You don't have to throw when you got a good run game.
well, what does it matter if he comes back?
Because Harbaugh's the one that's going to keep. You guys want to bring all this stuff up, but that's the only thing I'm saying, because I ain't saying nothing until after Monday.
Yeah, I'll call you Monday after the game if I'm awake, if I don't die from boredom.
Yeah.
But
It's like Michigan's the San Francisco of the college world. You're gonna make it all the way to the championship and then lose.
Ben Cornett says Arthur Smith and Vrabel are the top candidates for U-Haul trucks to be clearing out after the games today. I'm with Arthur Smith, but I think Ron Rivera is top candidate there. I think Riverboat's gone. Bill Belichick, I believe, is gone. So
Ron's gone just because of the new ownership and everything they're doing there. That's the only reason I think he's gone.
So, and he wants him in Chicago. Here it comes.
Oh, well, it's a question. So if you actually have Arthur Smith as the head coach for the Falcons, they get rid of him. Isn't he also the owner?
No, other blank. But
yeah, you see the gears lock up a little bit.
What if Ronnie ended up in Chicago? Would you be okay with that? You're changing the whole dynamic there.
If you have a quarterback that was actually there during the 85 season, yeah, chances are, yeah. He doesn't even necessarily have to have success. Or he feigns success and either loses in the first game of the playoffs like Dallas, or makes it to the championship and lose like San Francisco.
Yeah.
So, or he can go 0-12 and win the division just like Tampa Bay.
Hey, all you need is a ticket to the dance.
And the Bears haven't had their ticket in a long, long time.
So, any closing thoughts, gentlemen, before we get out of here? I'm cutting you guys off because I'm getting irritated. What do you got for any closing thoughts?
Awesome. Yeah. I got quite a few final thoughts.
Well, give them. We're waiting.
We're trying to be a travel-friendly or all ages but no, you actually.
That's two things. Cowboys in the playoffs, Michigan wins the national title.